This point of light this week is one in which a wonderful transformation takes place. And when the scripture begins for this, Cleopas, have you heard of that character, Cleopas? And that very day, two of them were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. Two of them. Two what? Disciples. Now, in the word disciple can be anyone who's a follower of Jesus. And so is Cleopas. Traditionally, the disciple on the way to Emmaus, by tradition, has been two men. The disciples have been two men. My Revised Standard is just gender neutral. Two. Very day, two of them, whatever. So it's always been interpreted as two men. But in more recent scholarship, in more recent investigation, it's suggested that the man here, Cleopas, is accompanied by Mary, his wife, mother of James and Joseph, you find in Mark 15. It's an interesting story. Cleopas and Mary, they've left Jerusalem. This is after the crucifixion. Their beloved Jesus has, to all appearances, died, gone away. They're leaving the comfort of that community that is supportive and loving, and they're on the road to Emmaus. Now, if you look at the back of your bulletin, I pulled from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary the passage on Emmaus. Emmaus, Greek, means mineral springs, medicinal springs, or baths. A village 70 furlongs from Jerusalem, about 7.5 miles, to which Cleopas and another of Jesus' disciples, here we're being non-committal, were going when Jesus met them after his resurrection and taught them from the scriptures all the things concerning himself. That's a powerful line which is drawn directly from the text, Luke 24:13. The metaphysical meaning, according to Charles Fillmore, a place in consciousness where the healing, restoring love and life and truth of spirit spring up and flow freely through man's being. They're on their way to a place in consciousness where healing, restoring, life, love, truth spring up and flow freely through our being. Each one of us is on that road to a place in consciousness, growing to a place in consciousness where we see that restoring, healing, life-affirming, and truth-sustaining spirit of the Christ in us. Remember our statement. The same resurrecting power that raised Jesus is raising me now. So we are in that journey, on the way. Oh, but it's Cleopas and Mary. Well, how wonderful. They finally recognize that it's husband and wife. You have a couple within you. Initial couple was Adam and Eve, right? Masculine is the thinking nature. Feminine is the feeling nature, or the intuition, seat of memory. Jesus said, where two or more are gathered in my name, what's there? I am there. Consciousness of God and truth. When thinking and feeling function together. We've all been in that place, right? You have a thought to do something, but some part of you said, oh, you can't do that. No, that's not right. Yeah, but this seems like but I don't. What happens? It's a taffy pull, isn't it? Generally, you either commit yourself to something you don't feel good about, or you feel good about something that in your head you don't quite understand or believe in. It takes both of them to create, to form, and shape our lives. In this case, think of it as one disciple and put yourself in that disciple's place. You're walking down this road to that place of understanding, of that healing, restoring, love, life, truth, consciousness. You're on your way into that, the consciousness of resurrection. And your thinking and your feeling are together. What you intellectually understand, you also feel the truth of. That is a place of wholeness, a place of infinite creativity, a place where two or more are gathered together. There I am. Boy, I've been in a lot of places where it was me alone. I thought it was a good idea if I just paid attention to what I felt. Sometimes, have you ever been all feeling and intellect? Be darned. It's chaos and can lead you all kinds of places that you end up regretting. So this is a unified consciousness. Consciousness, thinking, feeling, superconsciousness, which is Christ in you. Thinking, feeling, and the Christ consciousness, all working together. No surprise that something remarkable happens. Jesus appears. Well, they're not sure. Let's read it. That very day, two of them were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all the things that had happened. They're in concert. They're thinking and feeling in unison. This is a journey that is founded on a true creative act, a true open and receptive consciousness to life, love, truth, the presence of that divine self within. And the next line, and he said to them, "O foolish men, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. How important do you think that was? That day, in that journey, when you are there and your thinking and feeling are in harmony, functioning together, and then you have come upon that divine presence, the Christ in you, and it begins to reveal truth to you. They're walking down the road, and they're so transformed because now they know truth. They know the reality of the Christ. They understand. What a wonderful place to be. Absolutely outstanding. first, they don't recognize the presence of God in the clothing of a stranger walking at their side on the road to Emmaus. But once he begins to reveal this truth to them, through them, from within them. It's not truth that's jammed in an ear until it comes out the other side. It's revealing the truth from within them in mind and heart. What a opportunity for transformation. The message of the story? Well, they drew near to the village to which they were going. He appeared to be going farther. Well, of course, how far does the Christ go? Everywhere, right? And forever. But they constrained him, saying, "Stay with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is now far spent." So he went in to stay with them. They're going to remain in this consciousness of that divine presence for a while. And the next passage, when he was at table with them, he took the bread and blessed and broke it and gave it to them. Sound familiar? That night, the disciples were gathered. Where? In an upper room. And he took bread, and when he had blessed it, he gave it to them, saying, "This is my body. Take and eat ye all of this." That's a nice sentence. And I can remember when I wasn't sure, I'm supposed to eat the whole thing? Or is everybody supposed to eat some of it? It's everybody eats some of it. Yeah. And he took the cup and he blessed it. They didn't recognize him. And then here comes his communion. The next passage. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished out of their sight. In the movie, it was kind of fun. Remember when he just disappeared? Poof. Carol said, "I hate it when he does that." And I said, just wait until we start doing that. I'll just pop out of here any moment. Their eyes were opened. In the bread, in the breaking of the bread, they recognized. Then they knew, this is the Christ. Their eyes were open, but they were open from the inside. They now had insight instead of just physical sight, looking at a body they didn't recognize. But with insight, they saw what it was that was within them. And of course, his work was done. For the moment. And the next part, they said to each other, "Did not our hearts burn within us?" Burn. Boy. Ate at that greasy spoon again. So they had heartburn. But their hearts are burning with the fire of Christ in them. That's a good burn. A flame burning with the radiant light of that divinity, that spirit within them. While he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures. Wow. And anyone who would tell you how they do metaphysical Bible interpretation or presume to teach you metaphysical Bible interpretation will say that it comes through you. that you have to get in the state of consciousness of the writer at the time it was written. And those symbols then reveal themselves to you. That's what is happening for this consciousness, whoever this person might be. You, when you're walking down this road, headed in faith towards your goal of rising to a whole new level of awareness of who and what you are and what you've created to be. And the next. And they rose that same hour and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 gathered together, and those who were with them, who said, "The Lord has risen indeed and has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread. That's the secret. The breaking of the bread. You break it, but you break it open. So the bread isn't broken. It's now revealed to you. The truth of being. And it's amazing. In metaphysical interpretation, the bread represents the substance of Christ. The substance is what forms and shapes everything in your life. Your body is formed of this substance. And you look at your body and say, well, it's just chemicals and minerals. And yes, sure, that's how it appears at this point in time. But these chemicals and the things, your calcium and potassium and all the other things that are in your physical body, you know where they came from? What is the engine of the development of these compounds? The heart of a sun. Your bodies are formed of the stuff of the stars. Do you realize that? Oh, and ancient. It's ancient. But it doesn't matter. It's ageless. Just as we are. How many times, oh, my body's so old. No, it's not. Not in the overall scheme of things. Because it's just as good now as it ever has been. Some of you like gold, yes, and you like to wear gold. That came out of the heart of a star too. If you have any old gold that's getting old, I'll take it. I'm happy to take it off your hands. So you don't have to deal with that anymore. You wouldn't give that up, would you? You see, it's valuable and precious. But so are you, and the all of you. Spirit, soul, and body. The message of this story is that the divine presence goes before us on the road to ultimate strength that we cannot gather on our own, but God provides. God is the strength. God is the intelligence. God is the all things. Comes through that thing called grace. And grace is very simple. It's that God is continually bestowing upon us infinite good, eternal life, infinite supply. And sometimes we say, oh, something happened and I guess it was just the grace of God because it was a real fluke. No, God is always bestowing. Where it seems where the grace of God comes in is we change our minds from not accepting into acceptance, and it's right there. That's the story of the prodigal son, remember? He wanted his inheritance. He wanted to go off and have some good times. It says he squandered his substance in riotous living. Well, that doesn't sound so bad, does it? Until he found himself eating the husks with the pigs. Pigs? He was a Jewish boy. Shouldn't Ada be eating pig food? And then in an instant, he seems to awaken and to himself must say something like, I don't need to live like this. I don't need to be doing this. I'm my father's son. I will arise and go to my father. Boom. That's a change of consciousness. Do you see that? Going back to the source instead of separating himself from his father, from the source. And he begins to arise and head for his father's house. But before he gets to his father's house, the father has already come out to meet him. As if the moment we make that click, change, turning in consciousness, the support, the supply, the good we need is right there. It's never been taken away. It just requires the change of consciousness in order to see it. What does he get out of it? He gets a fatted calf to feed his friends. But he also gets a gold ring. That represents spiritual authority, spiritual power. He gets a new pair of shoes, understanding. And of course, he understands now his error, and life is certainly different. He gets the blessing that's always been his from the beginning. So, with this wonderful meaning that as we walk the road to Emmaus, the road to the next phase in our lives, to rising to the next joyful and radiant experience in our lives, that presence of God is with us. It is there to guide us, to reveal truth to us, to show us who and what we really are. We're not walking this alone. You don't have to walk it alone. I've had my times where I'd say, I'd rather do it myself. And it's okay. But where does that presence go? It's always right there, waiting for me to change my mind, to become open and receptive, to look inward and say, oh, there you are. Yeah, and I've been here all the time. I didn't know. Well, of course not. But now you know. Now you remember. I am with thee always. It's a very transformative little journey. About 7 miles. It represents the 7. It is a meaningful number. How many days in the week? 7. It is a number that indicates a level of completion, at least in intellect. So it demonstrates learning. 7 notes in a musical scale. Originally, we thought of 7 planets. 7 has been pretty prevalent in the world and the universe. So this is a period of our learning and unfolding. As what? What did Peter say that was so important? Thou art the Christ, the child of the living God. Blessed are you, Peter, for flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. It was revealed from within. So, once again, well, no, I should not put that first. On the road again, what do you think? Walking towards Emmaus, and it's a spiritual journey of transformation. You wouldn't be on the road to Emmaus if you didn't already see that there was something good and wonderful there for you, and you didn't already have an understanding of this divine presence called the Christ. And now it becomes clear to you that you're walking the path to the resurrection of your life with that divine presence at your side.